Am I the asshole for being mad my husband ate without me? My husband took me out to a birthday dinner, my birthday. While we were waiting on the food, I saw an old coworker and told my husband I wanted to go speak to them for a moment. While talking, I kept looking back towards our table to see if our food was out and to check on my husband. No food that I could tell. I'm super nearsighted, and he seemed to be reading something on his phone. I wrapped up the convo, may have been 10–15 minutes, only to come back to him finishing his food. I asked if he was done already, why didn't he let me know the food was out, etc., and he started saying he had small portions, didn't think it was a big deal, didn't want to interrupt my conversation, etc. I asked why didn't he motion towards me or something. He said he didn't think it would be a big deal for him to just eat. Now I understand what some may think about me walking over to speak to the former coworker. It was a quick 10–15 minutes conversation and moving on. I even asked him if he minded if I went over and spoke to them for a few minutes because I had not seen them in quite some time. They are older, this wasn't a super fancy sit-down restaurant either, our budget was tight so we went to Cracker Barrel. I feel like he could have at least let me know the food was out something. A little more context, we've been married 16 years, 2 teens, etc. Nothing like this has ever happened before. You are the asshole. Walking away for 15 minutes when you had food ordered and were supposed to be celebrating with your husband is way more rude than your husband eating his food while it was hot and fresh. You should be apologetic, not indignant. You are the asshole. LMFAO. And it's rude to get up from dinner and have a conversation for 10–15 minutes and leave your husband sitting there. A 10–15 minute absence from a date with your spouse is not a quick conversation. You are the asshole. You are the asshole you went out to eat with your husband. He assumed you preferred to talk to someone else so didn't bother you. He went there to spend time with you and have dinner. Since you decided against the first, he decided to go ahead and do the second. Unless she was eating alone, you were also rude to anyone else at her table. You are the asshole. Both to your husband and probably to the old coworker who likely just wanted to get on with their own meal and dining partner. Am I the asshole for my husband's aunt's tree being cut down? My husband rented his aunt's home before we got married. He signed a month-to-month lease when he moved in. I moved in with him after our marriage because the rent was super cheap. My parents recently came to me asking if they could park their RV at our home. I didn't see a problem with this. Our yards are really big and there is space. Because of city ordinance, the RV has to be parked in the backyard. There was no RV gate in the fence. My husband went to his aunt and asked if we could install a RV gate. His aunt said no. My husband relayed the message to me and my parents seemed upset when I told them. 2 days ago, I came home from work and saw that my dad had a construction crew at our home and had removed part of the fence for the gate. There was an apple tree in the way. They couldn't fit the RV in the yard. My husband angry told my dad not to continue and that they needed to repair the fence. At this point I felt like it was pointless. The fence guys already built the columns for the gate. It would cost a lot more money to rebuild the fence. I told my dad to finish the job but make sure it was left super clean. That it looked nice. I planned on talking to the aunt later and explain what happened. What I didn't know was my dad told the guys to remove the tree. My husband's aunt came by and saw the tree cut down and started to cry. She has refused to talk to my dad or me. When my husband came home he found a 30-day notice on our door, terminating our lease. He tried to call his aunt and she didn't answer the phone. He then called my mill and she went to talk to our aunt. Later I got several messages calling me an A for cutting down the aunt's late husband's tree. I had no idea he planted the tree. Now my husband and his whole family are really angry at me. I never told them to remove the tree. I feel like I am being thrown under the bus here. Am I the A here? You are the asshole for letting it continue when your husband said no. The aunt said no to the gate and no is a complete sentence. Your parents removed a tree from a yard they do not own. How stupid and selfish of them. Everyone is the asshole besides your husband, his aunt and family. The aunt can hire a lawyer and sue your parents and the company who did it without her permission. And honestly I hope she does. You are the asshole. She said no. Why do your parents have an RV that they have no room for? Why did your father even think any of this was appropriate? Let me reiterate, she said no. Am I the asshole for skipping my homophobic sister's wedding to go to a gay club? I, 23M, used to be super close with my older sister, 29F. Growing up, I idolized her. When I came out as gay at 14, she was super supportive, but everything changed when she met her now husband during her senior year of college. He grew up in a very traditional Christian household. They met at a frat mixer at Bama. She was in a sorority, he was in a frat. I should mention that despite being supportive when I came out, my sister has always been neutral about politics. After she met her BF, that's when I noticed our relationship started to change. When I would talk about guys, my sister would get visibly uncomfortable and change the subject. One time when her fiancé was on FaceTime with us, I mentioned a Tinder date with a guy, and she told him I was joking. We sort of grew apart as we got older. I moved to California for college, she stayed in Alabama. We still called each other, but I sort of stopped talking about my love life with her. When my sister's boyfriend proposed, I was happy for her, though I hadn't really gotten to know him super well. They set the date for a year later. A few months after, I met my current boyfriend of 8 months. Coincidentally, I found out that my BF's birthday was also the day of my sis's wedding. We talked about this in advance and decided to celebrate his birthday a different day. 3 weeks ago, I told my sis I was planning on bringing my boyfriend to her wedding. She told me earlier that I was allowed to bring a +1, she knows about my BF. During the rehearsal dinner the night before the wedding, I brought my boyfriend with me. At dinner, I noticed my sister seemed somewhat distant. At one point, I could see her fiancé looking toward my boyfriend and me and whispering, "They're going to make me and my family uncomfortable." After dinner, my sister pulled me aside and told me she didn't think I should bring my boyfriend to the wedding. I asked her why, and she said they were having a traditional wedding in a church and she just wanted things to be a certain way. I was pretty offended, and I asked her why she had a problem with me being gay all of a sudden. She said it was fine that I was gay, but I shouldn't force it on everyone else. That was the last straw. I told my BF, and he was very hurt. I was also upset, so I told my boyfriend we weren't going to the wedding. We decided to go home and go out for his b-day instead. I felt guilty for missing my sister's wedding, and I know I'm not blameless here. We were close for so long that it hurts regardless of what she said to me. But I felt so invalidated during that rehearsal dinner, and I made a decision, and I can't undo that. My sister hasn't spoken to me since the wedding. I was supposed to be a groomsman, and I texted her the morning of to tell her I wasn't coming. She didn't reply. I do think I owe her an apology, but I think she also owes me one. Is it time to cut her off for a while, or should I be the one to apologize? Not the asshole. Your sister and her husband do not accept you and your partner for who you are. Instead, they want you to fit into their picture of what the wedding should look like. They are pretty intolerant and obviously homophobic. For her to say, "Fine that I was gay, but I shouldn't force it on everyone else," is ridiculous. How is being there, forcing it onto everyone else? I highly doubt you were going to ask any of the guests to have sex at the wedding or reception. Not the asshole. Her comment about you, forcing it on everyone else, is bonkers. Did she think you planned on forcing sex on every man at the wedding? I find it heartbreaking that she allowed this bigoted homophobe and his family to change her views and ruin her relationship with you. I'm glad you stood by your boyfriend. A gay club sounds much more fun than a wedding with guests who judge you for whom you love. Am I the asshole for refusing my coworker's apology and being nasty back? I have been debating for days about posting this. I have ADHD and autism. I've been with my job for 12 years. In July 2021, the company hired 4 new people, Tom, Jamie, Alana, Deanna, fake names, to make the team that I work on. Unfortunately, none of the new people on my team are very nice to me because I'm odd. The only person who is ever kind to me is the new manager of our team. The new people started holding potluck meals. The first time I found out after the fact, while they were eating without me. I asked them to let me know next time and I would bake something. The second time it happened, they said it was an oversight, oops. By the third time, I got the hint, I wasn't welcome. I was hurt but let it go and did my job. Our new manager asked why I never participate in the team potluck. I told her the truth, I'm never invited, but she swore Alana texted me. I told her none of them ever contact me except for essentials by email only, and they make a point to avoid me. When my manager confronted the group, they lied and swore they asked me but were unable to produce the promised text. My manager and boss decided to no longer permit potlucks on company property. The next day, they cornered me in the break room when I went to eat lunch and began to shout at me for ruining their lunches. I ended up having a meltdown. I told them I didn't ask our manager to do anything about it, that our manager said they called it a team lunch, that I was part of the team too, and she was bothered that I was excluded and took it upon herself to do something about it. I said that I knew I was weird and that was why they didn't like me. I told them that I have ADHD and am autistic and I'm doing the best I can to fit in, but I'm not stupid. I know I'm always being left out on purpose and lied to and about, and that it hurts to never feel like I fit in or matter to anyone. By the end I was sobbing myself sick and my mom had to pick me up early because I was panicking so badly. I found out later my coworkers were put on administrative leave without pay and forced to go to sensitivity training before they could come back to work. A few days later, Tom approached me to apologize and said his nephew was autistic, too, and he should have realized and done better. I asked him, if someone treated your nephew the way you treated me, for over a year, and only apologized after getting caught and punished for it, what would you tell your nephew to do? Would you tell him to accept that apology? He quietly admitted he wouldn't, that he'd tell his nephew to tell them to go F.K. themselves. I told him to go tell himself that, get back to work, and leave me alone. No one else even tried after that. My manager is now saying I overreacted and should just accept the apology and give them another chance to keep the peace. My job coach says I should apologize, too, but I really don't want to. Am I the asshole? A year? And your manager is saying you're overreacting? They're underreacting. Sensitivity training isn't enough. Your coworkers did this with intent, for a fucking year, and then had the audacity to shout at you when their shite behavior was called out. My own anger at your treatment aside, I would accept the apology in time. I do think that what you said to Tom was perfect. You are 100% not the asshole. Accepting an apology is a personal choice, not something that should be subject to a superior's order. For that alone, I have to say not the asshole. I think you need to ask yourself if Tom's apology was sincere, and if it would benefit you to offer forgiveness. Forgiveness is not for him, it's for you. When you've thought about it, do what feels right to you. Based on what you've written, none of the other 3 people have apologized, so there's nothing to accept. I'm not sure what you would be apologizing _for_.